Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scrapyard. I'm your host, Nathan Mulepolder, joined here by Taylor.
Hi.
And Xavier.
I just got done spending like 14 hours at a speech tournament, so we'll see how this goes.
Today, we are talking about the Overwatch League because it is finally back, baby. It was opening weekend. We had Dallas and New York homestand games. Woo! I'm excited. Before we get into that, though, I do have to remind you guys, of course, that you can follow us on social media, on Twitter or Instagram, at ScrapyardMedia. Of course, you can listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts, and you can watch us on YouTube, where we have short clips, like Taylor recently released, talking about underdogs and how they are the Chemical X of the Overwatch League. Roll intro. Do you come from a land down under? Okay, so let's get right into it. Overwatch League is back. I mean, it's... how are we feeling about that, though? We got homestands going on. We got, personally, from my perspective, better production, better crowds.
Yeah. The production itself was a little weird, but that's like first day stuff. I don't really think like on a broad scale the production is bad. It'll get better. Like the first day, the observing was a little weird, where like you could kind of see like them clicking through stuff. You could see like little mouse wheels or whatever. But day 2 was like way better. It was a lot cleaner.
So much smoother.
And you're just gonna see that as the season goes on. That first day was just getting the hiccups going. They had broadcasts in Dallas, New York, LA, and trying to coordinate all that compared to just being in LA with the original Blizzard games. So like it totally makes sense.
And on top of that, it was ridiculously good looking. Like there was almost no problems with the stream at all whatsoever, like from a technical standpoint.
The stream worked for me I was watching on mobile all weekend, and the stream pretty much stayed at like 720p 60 frames per second the vast majority of the time.
Yeah.
I know some people had issues with their stream, and I think that the Overwatch League could probably do better in terms of just overall quality, because I did hear issues about quality. But like I think in general, for a first weekend on a new platform, doing this new style of production, it all worked out. And you saw the kinks kind of get ironed out. Like I thought Zoe was better on day 2 compared to day 1. I thought like the whole desk was better on day 2.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Even the casters, I thought Jake was less awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jake did
in day 2 compared to day 1. Everything just felt more polished.
There was less Cheez-It Grooves ad in the middle of a play.
Yeah, that was the worst. Especially because it was during the New York game, right?
Yeah.
And New York immediately took the point and we just missed that. And that's so stupid because New York is going to do some shit like that. Maybe you could get away with that if you're like, if it was like Boston on attack. Because they're not really going to take something that fast. But New York, like, you have to be ready.
Oh, I'm pretty sure New York did it was on Kings Row, and they did the flank.
Yeah.
Like, through the hotel and around the back. No? Well, we wouldn't know.
They just... Oh! That's true.
So, there's that. But I thought the jerseys...
They're way better.
Oh they are so much nicer.
So much pleasing to the eye.
Those old jerseys look fucking disgusting.
The
now.
old jerseys, okay.
Really
so
do.
The old jerseys look like, the middle school basketball team's jerseys.
They're just trash.
And just like, oh, okay, here you go. Here's your number. Go ahead, guys. But now they look like A+.
For some reason, I thought where you're going with that was like, the old jerseys look like your middle school social networking. I was like, fuck. Damn, that's going deep.
No.
Okay.
I do enjoy that FD God did not wear his own jersey. He wore Sparkles.
Yeah, it
was a mind game.
I know that. I appreciate the flex.
Yeah,
and he wore his jacket. Sparkles jersey.
Honestly, like with the jerseys, it is legit that meme, the you versus the man she tells you not to worry about.
It's true.
Like homies.
I think it's because they went with an actual designer and not like a Fanatics or like a something like along those lines. Art. It's like an actual designer who is a great designer, so it really engineers together the two worlds of like he says, street fashion and esports, which kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, like I would actually wear these jerseys. I would wear the old jerseys, but that's just because like I don't care. But like I would actually wear these new jerseys out, and they would look decent, and they would look like real jerseys, like something where somebody would ask and be like, "Oh, what's that?" Because they do look very much like a soccer jersey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Very similar to soccer jerseys, and I appreciate that. I think the whole visual aesthetics were better, and This homestand model is way better because the crowd atmosphere is
fire
lit. Dallas was kind of the deader crowd between New York and Dallas, but even Dallas, when it was Dallas popping off, the crowd was hype. But in New York, it was the epitome of what these crowds should strive to be, because they were losing their mind for every single little thing New York did. Yeah. And they were lively all night for even non-Dallas teams, but when Dallas had to play somebody, they booed Boston so hard. And I love that. And you could tell the players love that because Color Hex played into it. And, New York, I'm pretty sure it was Hotba that said, oh, no, I fed off the crowd. I loved having the crowd behind me. And that really does add an interesting dynamic of some players might not adapt to getting booed viciously every time they do something.
Yeah, I mean, Super had said he wanted to get booed when he walked into Dallas, and he loved that. And you could just tell he loved that. But it's also like, I have never, as again, we are a shock Super fan club here on the Scrapyard. I have never been so more excited than when the casters were like, Dallas, they're booing San Francisco really hard. I've never been more excited to boo a team than I have for Dallas right now. I've never been, especially after what happened today, which we'll get to later, but especially after what happened today, I'm just kind of like, I'm ready for them to get booed when they walk in. Even if they're playing against, like, Valiant or Vancouver, I'm ready for them boos.
But the New York atmosphere was really special. I mean, Hammerstein Ballroom is already a dope building. The home of ECW. Killer venue. And the Overwatch League really filled that place up. And New York fans are insane. And so I really look forward to next week because Philadelphia fans are also insane in every sport. So I think we're going to have 2 straight weeks of homestands that are just full of energy. And it's a real shame that the Shanghai homestand was canceled, because I think that would have also been a giant crowd that's just raucous, because we haven't had any Overwatch League thing really ever in China. And so this is the Shanghai Dragons making a homecoming, and it would have been huge. And so it's a real shame that we're missing that, but I do think when they do finally go to China, hopefully if, the games get rescheduled, that wait will make the moment even crazier.
Yeah.
Because then the fans are, like, fuck, I missed out that first time. The second time, we're going hard.
Yeah.
So I really like the homestand model. I think it's going to work throughout the season. However, it is going to be a test of how, like, hype they can make everybody get, because some homestands are going to be dead inevitably.
I think
there's going to be a homestand that's where the crowd's dead. That just happens with every sporting event.
Yeah, it's
You're going to go to a city where the crowd just isn't feeling it. Yeah. And it's going to be a real interesting to see how that affects the full production, because unlike when Blizzard Arena was kind of dead, it was like, who cares? It's Blizzard Arena.
Right.
But now there is an expectation, after this first week especially, that home games are going to feel like home games. They're going to feel hype. So if we go to, Florida, will they be as hyped compared to these Northeastern teams, which everybody in the Northeast is insane anyway. Yeah. So they're just they're just going to lose their mind.
And Dogman even said he was looking forward to the first team to get booed at their own homestand.
Damn, Dallas was probably close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some sympathy there, though. I was like, oh, that's the first week.
Yeah.
Yeah. See y'all at that, they got 5 homestands? See y'all at that 4th. And we'll see if there's any boos. But I really think the first homestand that'll boo their own team is probably, like, Philly. Because Philly just be booing their own sports teams.
Just because.
They mess up a play, and it's like, you suck. And so I really could see
Philly being the first one to
like Carpe misses a shot, and suddenly everybody's like, boo. It's like, damn, you just missed a shot. Chill. You're up 2-1. Like, calm down.
He can't do that. Yeah, no, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, but it was refreshing just to be back. I don't know.
It's refreshing.
I was just happy to watch some Overwatch, and the meta was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really showed, and we could get into this later, but I think a big takeaway from this, and I saw this opinion said a lot of times, but, to be fair, I've said this same thing when everybody was hating on goats. So just know that I didn't get this from none of y'all. This is an Xavier original. But goats really elevated the standard of play in Overwatch.
Right.
Because I think goats was so based on being perfect and using your abilities to their utmost efficiency that those principles that teams learned and grinded during goats have moved on to this new meta where you are seeing Genji Tracer dive sometimes. You're seeing a lot of Mei Reaper, but you're also seeing a lot of Mei McCree.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing some more Diva. And so it's not goats. There's a lot more carry potential, but you see a lot more patience with your abilities. Ults are so much better. I think team fights are way more exciting because I feel like teams know how to counter things better. And I really attribute all that to goats. And so while goats was boring as shit because, you know, when you hit stage 3 week 2 and you're watching 2 bad goats teams play, it's awful Overwatch. But I'm thankful for goats because it really taught all these teams how to min-max things and play perfectly. And now it's leading into a meta where you see Haxel go for a 6k blade. But it's a lot more responsible and it's a lot more well set up than you would have seen in Apex.
Right.
Where things were kind of...
Even the first season.
Yeah, where things were kind of primitive compared to now. And so I really enjoy that. I just think the standard of play this weekend was way higher than we've ever seen in Overwatch. Where every team had a player that you were like, damn, that dude's a monster.
Oh, yeah.
And every team had plays where you're like, I see you. Like the LH Cloudy Shatter.
Oh, my God.
On what was it, Lijiang? No, Nepal. The LH Cloudy Shatter on Nepal where he snuck the Valiant. Or, no, where he snuck the Titans.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where you're like, y'all motherfuckers sneaky.
Yeah.
And I like that. I don't think you would really see that from just every other team. But every team had those moments where it was really impressive.
They had one special thing that stood out each game, which is something that we've talked about in the past where it's like these teams like the Valiant don't stand out.
Yeah.
And then they do something like that where now they have the opportunity to stand out because there's only like their game against Vancouver and then Shock versus Dallas. So it's like there's only 2 games to watch if you're watching just the Western Pacific Conference.
The Valiant got 3-0'd, but it was a fun 3-0.
Yeah.
Like, it was actually a really exciting game.
Yeah.
And what I also really like is every team has a particular style. New York is playing a lot of dive. They're going a lot of like Genji Sombra, Genji Tracer dive. Because they have Who Are You, who is basically, top 5 Genji in the league, top 5 Genji ever. Then you have Paris, who, because they don't have Hanbin, so they have no off-tank, they're just running Ben Best No Smite double main tank the entire time, and it's low-key working.
Very similar to Dallas running both of their main tanks.
Yeah, so you have teams playing double main tank, but you're also having teams try out dive. You have teams that are like just leaning heavy on McCree carry. And then you have the Shock who are just saying, we can do whatever we want, who cares? And I enjoy each team kind of having a particular style. I watched a Paris game and I'm like, oh yeah, they're going to be running double tank. And I can watch a Toronto game and I know, oh, you're going to be running a lot of Diva because Nevix is a crazy Diva. And I appreciate the variation in styles, even though they are kind of small. Like, they're all still playing Mei McCree, but sometimes you get dive.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get Mei Reaper. You know, sometimes you get a little bit of extra thrown in.
You get a little spicy with it.
And that's all I need. I just need some spice with my standard meta.
Yeah, it's fun to see how they and it's going to be good going into after March 7th with the McCree buff and all that, seeing this new improved way they're going to form around the meta, which I think is why McCree is still so he's so important right now because he's just going to get better. Yeah,
McCree's a monster, and it's so fun watching McCree pop off. We haven't seen a McCree in a while in the Overwatch League, so it's really nice to see McCree play because a McCree that gets a 3K is fucking
dope
nutty
as fuck.
because they're just hitting every shot.
They have checked off Junkrat, may I say. They tweeted out earlier today that there was a list of a couple of characters who hadn't seen play yet, and I believe it was like Ashe, Junkrat,
Bastion, Sigma, but Sigma saw play today.
Sigma saw play, Junkrat saw play, and then Torbjorn. So, somebody better play Torbjorn.
No, someone's gonna play Torb. Probably Chengdu if they play.
Yeah, I can see that.
Chengdu's gonna like bust out a
whip out Torbjorn.
Yeah.
I mean, we are saying a lot. The thing is, it's only week 1.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I got this. So, in an effort to overreact to the highest extent, while still keeping myself grounded to something I genuinely believe, it's only 1 week. But Jonak is going to be the MVP this season. And I mean this sincerely. So, we're going to get to this later about all y'all hating on Onimo, but we'll save that for later.
Before he goes into this, forget I plugged our YouTube. There's a video that will contradict everything he's about to say. Go ahead.
Well, in that video, I said Corey had a good chance of being MVP, and I still believe that. Corey's going to be in the MVP conversation. But when I watch this week 1, I can't help but think Jonak is going to win MVP. I think this is New York's year to be the number 1 team in the league and assert themselves as championship favorites yet again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this time they have a better chance of being championship favorites.
Okay.
But if you look at how they play, it's still centered around Jonak being a monster. But this time, they're just straight up more aggressive. In Season 2, they were very passive, reactive. But with the addition of Hotba and I think a new philosophy with how to attack and what made them worse, and what made them a worse team compared to the Shock and the Titans, which was a big issue, I think it was the aggression. I think it was the ability to set the tone in a match and take an inch and just stretch that into a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And New York is playing way more aggressively this time. Onimo is starting to get some attention because now he's finally allowed to be a little bit more forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that. But Jonak, he had some plays this weekend that were pure hard carry. Especially today against Boston, where I'm pretty sure it was Swimmer that tried to like 1v1 Jonak, and Jonak said, "Fuck you." And just destroyed him. And they tried to dive Jonak, and he would just shut that down. And that's what an MVP does. You focus resources on him, and he just pulls something out of his ass. And you look at their game against London on day 1, and it was just Onimo and Jonak that were getting the final blows on, I believe it was Horizon Lunar Colony. And that's impressive. They still play around their supports. And I think this is a recipe for Jonak to have this weird redemption arc to him and come through and win another MVP. Because New York very well could just be the number 1 team in the league, full stop, depending on how the Shock do. But it's like them and the Shock, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Titans are like a third right now. But if New York keeps this up and keeps playing more aggressive, it's only going to further shine on Jonak. And I really think that voters just didn't want to vote Jonak as a role star or as an MVP candidate last year because it's your second year in the league.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it again. But now it's the 3rd year in the league. It's like, who cares?
Acknowledge it.
Yeah, he's what, top 5 best player in the league?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's earned it.
Yeah, he's going to be MVP because he's going to be a carry on the best team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop.
It's only 1 week, but Dallas will have a major upset this season. Now, they already had an upset this literally today when we're recording this, and
I don't know if I call one map an upset.
But they broke the Shock's win streak from the playoffs. So from the playoffs, play-ins to the Grand Champions, Shock had only lost against Atlanta and then had a win streak. Literally 4-0ing everybody. So, I do believe with what Dallas has shown today that they can pull off an upset against one of the bigger teams. And that's just based on their spirit when they are in Dallas. They had pretty rough games this weekend, so obviously it's a lot harder because we knew from rumors that the Valiant was getting better, that they were probably better than Dallas. And then we know what the Shock gives us. So I feel like going back to Dallas, whoever they might go against the next time, they could literally just blow them out of the water. I generally think that Dallas has shown up and shown out and hasn't fallen on the wayside yet. And I think that they have more, like, positivity going into the season. They don't seem tired. They seem hungry and they want to prove something. And that could be seen today during their last game against the Shock.
I mean, Dallas is going to have some really high highs because Gamzu is great. He had some rough games this weekend, but, like, who cares? We don't talk about that shatter. Yeah, he's generally great. So you can account for him not to suck all season. Closer's still a god. I think Unco is better than Crimzo, but they had to play Crimzo because Unco was sick. Mm-hmm. But I think Unco coming in is just an upgrade over Crimzo right now. But really, it's just going to be Decay is going to have a... Would you look at me then?
I just was listening.
But really, the thing that's going to get Dallas past a big team is Decay having some ridiculous game. Because Decay all weekend was just basically trying to 1v6 and kind of doing it.
Yes, feed my draft buff team.
He was a monster. And so if Dallas does have a big upset against an Atlanta, a Shock, a New York, a Titans, it's going to be because Decay has one of those games where on Monday we're sitting here and we're like, is Decay the greatest player of all time?
Yeah.
like we're asking those questions.
The answer is, for now, yes.
For like a good minute spurt every once in a while, Decay might be the best player of all time. And then he does some stupid shit.
Yeah, well, it was still...
My bet was well placed.
It was still very impressive, and I think that...
Everybody's going to shit on Dallas.
Yeah, but I think I'm looking forward most to seeing how Dallas progresses. And hopefully it's an upward progression instead of a downhill progression. Because after their homestand last year...
Things
snowballed, and I don't want them being the opening weekend homestand and then just never get better.
I mean, honestly, I really think it's figuring out, like, this Note Trill thing. Gamzu's great, but I don't really like the second tank in, like, either lineup. As you all know, Note is the most okay player in Overwatch. And Trill is just finding his place, but I don't think he's a really good partner next to Gamzu.
Mm-hmm.
And so Doha... I don't know much about him, but his Mei is dope. And so him next to Decay, dope group, their support line is cool. It's just really my only concern is...
the tank.
Who's going to be next to Gamzu? Because Trill is cool, but I don't think he particularly stands out to me. And Note doesn't stand out. He's just a player. Yeah, he's just an Overwatch player.
You know, you're saying you didn't want to shit on Dallas too much, or that people would be shitting on Dallas. And speaking of that, it's only week 1, but... KSP is Rookie of the Year confirmed. Like, did you see this man grab Dallas by the jaw, open them wide, and literally shit down their throat on McCree? Like, I'm sorry to be graphic here.
I mean, it was one of the best...
But, mans, it's too hot.
It was one of the best, like, rookie performances, like, first games.
First game.
Basically ever, because he did this in Contenders.
I mean, yeah.
Because I remember watching Contenders, and every single time I saw him in Sharp play, they were both players I'm just like, what the fuck, man? Like, you're going for these crazy shots, and you're actually hitting them? And so when KSP came in, I'm like, alright, like... And before this week, there was all this weird steam picking up around the Valiant as a team, and it was everybody just saying, guys, KSP is a hard carry for this team. Right. And he came out and proved it.
Like, we talked about Decay trying to 1v6.
He did 1v6.
KSP did 1v6. He took out Decay, and then he said, rest of y'all, you're next.
Yeah, no, KSP was insane. I think Valiant has a solid, like...
DPS line.
But it was also KSP. But it was also the fact that, like, KSP would be like, hold on, let me high noon right here in the... just in the open, and get away with it.
Yeah, he had balls. Like, he
was in front of a shield and would be like...
walked out and said, don't mind the drip. High noon.
Like, the only person that has balls as big as KSP is, like, Lil Nas X.
Yeah, so KSP was...
Sure.
But, shout out to KSF. He was... I think he's like a more stabilizing force.
Yeah.
Where he'll do like the dirty shit that KSP ain't gonna do. But KSP is going to get all the highlights on this team because it's very clear that their strategy going into games is KSP.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's support him and let him get his shit done.
It's the Sinatra thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, without Moth, is Sinatra really, like, as much of a god as he is?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, he kind of is, but I feel like it's the same thing with KSP.
I mean, their entire strategy on Horizon Lunar Colony was try and take point as fast as possible so it scatters everybody and just let KSP sit in the back and just
take him out.
And you would see Decay would try to counter KSP because KSP was such a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing was really going to work against him. You try to dive KSP with somebody, and McGravy was on fire this weekend, and he would immediately peel and help his team out, and Lucio would also go with him. And so it's very clear the entire team has practiced so hard of basically playing Protect the President with KSP that it's working.
KSP played like DM played in those games where Shanghai popped off.
Yeah.
Like, you just could not stop him.
You're just going. But also with the Valiant, they were doing a lot of good stuff in terms of like protecting KSP that I really appreciated. Dogman had a stream last night where he went over the game, and he just pointed out a lot of really good moments where, they Lastro and and he just pointed out a really good moments where Rain and McGravy would just rush to anybody trying to flank on KSP.
Yeah.
Like, Dogman called him like a mafia hit squad, where they would just take homie out. And it was perfect. And you saw Decay, I don't know, this is just projecting, but he was basically like, if y'all motherfuckers aren't going to get him, I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
And so he switched to Tracer to try and get KSP, but it didn't work. Because then KSP just switched, and then Decay switched off him. And suddenly, once you're doing that, they're in your head.
Yeah.
Because then KSP immediately switched back to Widow, like, you don't know that I just switched back. And then it's like, yeah, they're in Dallas's head. Dallas isn't prepared for this type of carry style.
Uh-huh.
And it was really impressive by the Valiant. I thought that game was a really good performance by them.
And before we move off, I would like to say one last thing about the difference between the Pacific and then the Atlantic. The Atlantic conference seemed to have so much here is how we're going to play it, and it seemed very neat and not as scrappy. But in Dallas, I felt like every single game was super tiring, and it was just they
intense.
Threw everything into every game. It was just body, just go, just do it, just do whatever it takes.
They were playing Overwatch Call of Duty style, where it's just throw bodies at the objective until you win the point.
Yeah, it was the scrappiest games of Overwatch I have seen in a long time.
The Valiant Dallas game was really good, but it was also frustrating because, and you see that you can't go too crazy with the Valiant because, and I said this, where the Valiant would take an advantage and occasionally just immediately give it away.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't really know how to play from super far ahead. And you saw that in their game today against the Titans, where they would get an advantage and then blow it immediately. And I think that comes with age. That comes with getting more experience as a team, but
I honestly think it's because of how Valiant's performed in the past. I believe they legitimately trained to fail, and when they weren't, they didn't know how to react.
Yeah, they were doing well, and shout out to McGravy. If we're talking about really good players that shine this week, he, in terms of his play was cool. He had a cool 6K bomb, whatever. But I think you would see McGravy after a map immediately dap up all his teammates. He was clearly the one that was talking the most. He was hyping everybody up, and it really proves what the Valiant coach said, that McGravy is taking on this role as a leader. And that's super important because every team needs a leader.
Needs that leader.
And he seems to be the perfect man that's suited for that leadership
Oh
role.
yeah, definitely.
And I know McGravy isn't technically a rookie, so we're not going to talk about him, but we are going to give you a rookie report. We're going to talk about the rookies that impressed us the most this weekend. Obviously, KSP had an impact on me, but let's start by talking about XZ.
I would give him a B. Just a hard B. I don't know. I just figured I'd give him a letter grade. A hard B.
We kept the rhyme going, so it worked.
So he played basically over Soon the entire time for Paris. Soon didn't play. So Xe is their hit scan dude. And he's really, really good. I don't think he has the best team around him to support that skill. And sometimes I think it's just... I don't think he really played the best, like, Widows he could play. Like, Logic's fucked him up on Havana when they played Toronto. So I worry about Xe trying to, like, be the carry for this team when they face really good teams. But for this weekend, I was really impressed by Xe, and I think that this is a really good pickup. And it does make me hopeful for when they get Sparkle back, and they start fucking around like Xe and Sparkle. I think that can pop off.
I agree. I definitely agree.
It's just the talent around him isn't excellent, so he doesn't have a lot of support when it comes to... He doesn't have as much support as KSP.
Yeah.
To be honest, the team just doesn't play around him like that. And I don't know if his style is like that, where he's just like, guys, BRB, and then he just wins a team fight. I don't think that that's his type of playing style.
I'm going to just
But he was good.
go for Doha. I'm just going to say that was one of the rookies that really impressed me. Because, again, watching this new Dallas was incredible. Doha and Decay was probably one of the best DPS duos I have seen this weekend. And Doha is an insane Mei. Like, a terrifyingly good Mei. There was times where we were watching and it was just like, how is he getting his wall so perfect? How can he always know at the perfect, like, precision time, like, ice block. There's my wall. He's peeking around that corner. I can take down the tank now.
Yeah, his Mei walls were stupid.
Amazing.
It was stupid insane watching him, and it just goes to show that, like, the rookie pool we have this season is beyond talented.
And similar to Doha, I was really impressed by Glister. Yet again, the team around him isn't necessarily great, so you have to manage expectations. And I think Ryan Force was going a little bit too hard on him on the desk, where he's like, you're this hyped up player, you need to carry the team, and it's like, bruh.
Chill.
Like, he's playing with J-Mac. Like, calm down.
See,
like,
the secret to carrying a team is the team actually is good.
Yeah, but Glister showed really good flexibility. And I like that. I just think being able to show the ability to be a flexible player works. But Glister and Bernard are both players that I think by week 10 we will be saying, damn, they're very good.
Damn.
I just believe
by
that.
week 10.
Yeah, by like week 10.
Damn, Overwatch, where'd you find it?
Yeah. Like, we'll really be talking about them good. It was a nice little first week for them. But it's very clear that London... We're going to be talking about London by the end of the season as a team that is going to, on a good day, push some of the better teams in the league to, like, a map 5 or something crazy like that. We'll all be like, wow, look at London. But then other days, like today, they're just going to get destroyed by Paris. And that's what this team is going to be. A young, inexperienced team that's still trying to figure things out with a lot of individual talent, but not really the experience to make their talent be consistent. And you saw that when they played New York. Obviously, New York is an incredible team, but London would go for, like, some flanks where you sit there and you think New York would never fall for this shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they would go for, like, some McCree flanks, and you're sitting there like, yeah, Hotba has that shit scouted. Yeah. They would never fall for that.
No,
and you would see that a lot.
That was so rough.
Or they wouldn't know how to, like, finish fights against New York. And a lot of that is New York's talent, but a lot of that is just inexperience of knowing how to deal with these situations, or know what works on the Overwatch League level, where you might have been able to pull that shit off in contenders, but Jonak has seen that a million times. Hotba has seen that a million times. They just know. They're like, yeah, we see you disappear from our sightlines
Where's McCree?
Yeah, like we know where you can flank, and they just destroy you, or some of the shatters that London was trying to go. Yeah, some of the shatters that J-Mac did were just
rough.
Yeah, were negated by Mono just because Mono knew, and he telegraphed, and J-Mac telegraphed his shatters. But by week 10, those should be ironed out.
Yeah,
and they'll improve, and they'll know what works and what doesn't on this level.
Everything you just said was what happened when they tried to take that second point on Horizon Lunar Colony.
Yeah, that was awful.
When they went through the side room coming into the point on the left, and it was just like they were kind of dancing around that like corner, and then he just went right in and he tried to pop it, and everybody was just like, obvious. What are you doing? Like, it felt disrespectful.
Yeah, so they'll learn. And another player that I think it's important to give shine to, obviously, FD God. He was really good today, but let's wait till like 3 weeks to like gush about him. He's really good.
Yeah.
But who are you? The not rookie. So he's not a rookie. Like, this motherfucker played with like Jonak. No. He played with like Jaehong or something.
Yeah, he's the non-rookie.
Yeah, like he's a OG from like Apex. Like, every time I watch those old Apex games, like, his name will come up. It'd be like, oh, who are you? And he was a player that everybody was just sitting here like, he should be in the league. Now he's in the league, and every single thing I've ever heard about him is 100% true. His Genji is insane. And I really like that New York just sticks with him. I really enjoy that, because his Mei was not good that first map against London. His Mei wasn't good. And his Mei wasn't really good that entire series, but I love that they just stick with him, and he's a clear piece of their team going forward. I love the confidence in Who Are You, letting him get some playing time, because he's really good. And then when you get him to play Genji, it's very much like Hawksaw, where every single time he's playing Genji, you know he's going to have like a 5k or 4k blade. It's just that simple. And with New York, they played some bad teams, but yet again, it was that simple. And Who Are You was on Genji, it was an inevitability. It's just like when Ding was on Pharah in Stage 3. It was an inevitability that Ding was going to destroy your team. And with Who Are You, it was just an inevitability that he was going to win. Yeah. And so he is a rookie by some technicality, but he is not really a rookie.
Right.
Because Homeboy has been playing longer than like most people in the league right now.
I would like to go back to Doha and just point out that the casters were saying how Doha was a Sombra main. He was known for getting his EMP really, really fast. And I think this is where his training, if they're going to try and do this Sombra dive Genji thing, is you have to realize certain things where, like you said with London, you have to realize certain things that happened you can't get away with against a team like the Shock or a team like the Valiant, because most of, like, McGravy's been in it for a long time, so he knows these things. So he's telling the team, like, oh, Sombra is going to be sneaking around here. You can't
some of Doha's Sombra was, like, very obvious, like, oh, yeah, you're going to do some shit, homie.
Yeah, like... Whereas, like, oh, now we know you have a Sombra, so, like, Choyobin was just spraying everywhere. McGravy's just spraying everywhere. There was a point where Doha was, like, crouched right underneath where Choyobin's spray could go, and I thought that was very fun to just him just barely missing. But it was also, like, cool. You hacked Choyobin when he went out the door and your team hasn't dropped down yet. And you're not trying to find a way to EMP. And you now have wasted your teleporter getting into the point only to hack Choyobin and then not EMP. And now you're dead. It was like things like that where it's like, you can tell that he's a rookie.
Yeah, but like, who cares? He'll be good. I thought all the rookies really showed out today and yesterday as really good. And this isn't even half the rookies that are left to play.
I know.
We still have some of the heavy hitters coming up in the next couple weeks. Next week, we'll have some of the heavy hitters.
Right.
And it's going to be very fun to watch.
There were a couple of people that were really fun to watch this week, though. They decided they wanted to reintroduce themselves. The veterans, they've they played well in the past, but this week they woke up. And from... we're starting off with the entirety of New York.
That's left of New York.
It's weird that we're talking about New York as like, wow, they're reintroducing themselves because they're the winningest team in the history of the game. But I don't know, man. New York hit different this week.
Yeah.
There was an aggression to them that we haven't seen before.
In an episode that was never aired, that's lost to space-time, we did a draft. Not like our other draft, but...
Old school draft.
Old school draft. And I had a first pick that is questionable, and I had picked Nene.
Nene is still fucking stupid.
It's still a stupid-ass pick, but now I'm feeling a type of way that y'all were roasting me because he wasn't good, and he was doing so well this first day. And I was just sitting there, and it was like, Nene is going insane. And I was like, what? Y'all roasted me for nothing. I was like, look at him. He's popping off on all his heroes. But it was just one of those things where I was like, wow, no wonder Nene came to mind first when I was doing the draft. This was why. It was just a very funny moment, but I was still shouldn't have fucking picked him first.
There were two players that caught a lot of just stupid-ass disrespect that this podcast...
Here we go.
No, that this podcast stands, right? So first is Hotba. I think it was Sideshow's dumbass. I'm sorry, Sideshow, like, I respect you. But it was Sideshow's dumbass. That was throwing so much shade at Hotba, talking about Hotba like he's some mid-tier off-tank. When I'll just say me, I don't know about you two crazies, but I've been high on Hotba. I think he's right up...
Yes, you have.
He's right up there with, like, Choi and Fury. I genuinely believe he's that good. And his performance this weekend wasn't perfect, but it was super inspiring. And he played how we expect him to play. He was aggressive, he was sniffing out all these flanks, and he was peeling for everybody, and he was just all over the map. He was omnipresent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you want from your off-tank. That's what you want from your diva. And so Hotba, he's in this new system. He's around A-plus players on the entire roster, and I think that this is going to be one of those opportunities for Hotba to just shine all season, and for people to stop disrespecting him. He was the best player, right next to like Shu and Happy on the Guangzhou Charge, and a lot of people were talking shit about the Guangzhou Charge simply because, you know, the first half of the season happened.
Mm-hmm.
But once they got good, they got really good. And then obviously he was with Philly, and he wasn't really memorable in Philly. So I think a lot of people are just throwing some shade on my boy Hotba, and I don't get it, because he's right up there with the best in the league. But we need to talk about Animo. So after this, I'll be quiet for a little bit because I'm going to get some anger out. So as everybody on this podcast knows, all of our listeners, I was an advocate for the Animo should be an MVP candidate fan club last season. And I firmly believe he was robbed of role stars last season as well. This is the thing. Animo is the perfect main support. And while last season he was quiet, he wasn't quiet in the note way of being quiet, where he's just fine. He was quiet because that's the team's style. That's what the team needed from him. New York was already a conservative team, and so in order to play this counterpunch style, you need a main support. You need a Lucio in particular that simply will not die, that will keep you in fights, that will be able to speed boost you onto opportunities, and Animo was that guy. He doesn't die. He's like 0.2 deaths behind Arc in terms of players with the least deaths per 10 minutes. And he's incredible. He's the ideal main support. And I don't understand why people seem to think he isn't like top 3. I think he's better than IDK.
Right.
I think he's better than Slime. I think he's better than IDK. I think he's better than Slime. And next week, I will be pulling up statistics to prove my point with the new stats lab.
Ooh.
But with all this together, I think the only thing that was missing from the oh my god, Animo's incredible equation was the fact they didn't frag out. The fact that he didn't make these big splashy plays. Instead, he opted to walk to allow Jonak to run, as you once eloquently said, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
This year, New York is a lot more aggressive. You can see it clearly. I think the addition of Hotba made them more aggressive, and I think last season they learned a lot of lessons about being conservative. Now, during that game against London, Onuma was going hard.
Right.
Onuma was making plays. He single-handedly won Horizon Lunar Colony for that team. It was him and Jonak, as I said earlier. But Onuma had just play after play, and he was more forward than we've ever seen him before. So, with that said, put some fucking respect on Onuma's name.
Right.
Because he is an S-tier main support, and he reintroduced himself this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to keep it going. Because he's a god. And way better than Slime. And IDK. But not better than Moth.
You're right.
That's a fair call.
Now, speaking of Shock players and their support line, today San Francisco Shock put Architect, known for the infamous Bastion Chandelier, as their second support.
At first I thought they were memeing.
I really did.
At first I thought it was a joke. And then suddenly on Eichenwald, here comes Decay doing a Death Blossom and then is immediately gone. Like, he was slept so fast.
Didn't that happen with a High Noon too?
Yeah.
Architect just immediately slept him?
Yeah, Architect was hitting
He's looking like Kareev up in that motherfucker. He was
the
so good.
craziest shots.
Architect played like people acted like Kareev played.
Oh, damn.
I'm sorry.
Chill with the disrespect. Jeez.
I mean, like,
I'm gonna have to go in on you.
Kareev is good, but I feel like sometimes he got overhyped. There were certain...
Yeah, he was right.
He had, like, a play per game. It wasn't like he was hitting, like, play after play after play after play, except for that one time.
Architect did get player of the match, though. So...
Yeah, because everybody was like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
But this was also... It was one of those moments where I was like, okay, let Architect practice support, and then let Rascal come in as your flexi guy on DPS.
Well, apparently Violet just isn't a good Ana in the first place.
That
because
doesn't surprise me.
The Shock learned that Architect was playing in the starting lineup, like, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very much like a last-minute decision. So I think Violet just isn't a good Ana. And Architect is a sniper player, so
right.
it was just like,
well,
hey,
fuck it.
Yeah, like, learn how to do a sleep dart, learn what a bionate is, and you're good. And he fucking learned that, because he looked really good.
And act like your teammate is
shocked.
I was genuinely shocked. I was generally,
Go on.
I was, it was just one of those moments where, like, they were, even the casters were like, they're playing Architect as their other support. But also, like, what the fuck? It was not what I was expecting from what I know of the Shock. And it was cool to see Super back.
Yeah, I love the ability to experiment with the Shock. It's clear that they tried out Architect. It's like, well, you play Sniper, like, you can play Ana. And it worked out, and they just rode with it. And I think a lot of coaches and a lot of teams probably wouldn't have done that. Because it is a risk. You're playing this DPS player historically on a support role, right. And while it is Ana and it is sniping, it's a whole different way to think about the game. In essence, like, you're not the carry.
Also, you have Moth to back you up on the support line until, you know, Decay is taking him out first because he's targeting him, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Decay gotta go 1v6. Like, give him some slack.
Decay's got
Speaking of people who went 1v6, Striker was the player of the match.
Yeah, I tweeted like 8 times, who the fuck let the San Francisco Shock sign Striker? Like, who? Alright, so...
No, there was so many times.
Like, who let them sign it? That's unfair.
No, it was literally like the entire team was on... It was on Oasis. Where they just
went Tracer and won.
No, not even that. It was where he was still McCree, and they were like, oh, we gotta win this point. Nano. Like...
Yeah, and just do this.
Do this. And he did it! And I can't believe that a person can just take... As the 200 health McCree can take down Rhine, both supports, and, like, I think a Tracer.
Because he's striker. And here's the thing. This is like some Kevin Durant joining the Warriors shit. And last season, we did...
I was going to make a different comparison, but I like that one.
And last season, we didn't really get to, like, feel it because Striker didn't come in until the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, who cares? Like, you kind of forgot Striker was ever on the team during GOATS. And I think because of that, people forgot Striker in Season 1.
Yeah.
And so this season, Striker's clearly getting, like, the starting minutes for this team. And now you're really getting to see who the fuck let them sign Striker. Because if in the stats lab, they have the stat for a fletted deadlift. And the stat is basically on a map if the player has more than 50% of the team's final blows. Striker has, like, I think it's like some stupid shit, like 6 of the top 10 in terms of fletted deadlifts. Like, it should basically be called a Striker deadlift. It's so absurd. And you look at those stats, and I just have to ask again, who let them, like, what did the Shock offer him? Did they offer him, like, stocks in a tech company? What did they do to get this man? Because did every org not just bend at Boston's feet to get this dude? Because, it's straight up unfair. And so I think in a couple weeks, we could be looking back, not talking about Moth, not talking about Choi, not talking about Sinatra, but talking about Striker as the best player on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were moments today where he looked like the carry. But also, with the Shock, with what's so cool, is everybody has moments where they're the carry.
Yeah,
and you don't see that with other teams. Sinatra has his moments, Super has his moments, Choi has his moments, fucking Architect Anna has his moments. Everybody has their moments to be the carry. And that's so special to have every player be capable of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dallas isn't capable of that.
No.
Decay is the carry.
Decay is the carry.
Just full stop.
Decay is just the carry.
Yeah, definitely.
But another good returning player, if we're talking about the Shock, Nevix.
Nevix, yeah. I was
definitely.
gonna bring
So the greatest player of all time made his first appearance on the stage.
I love this is reintroduce ourselves, but really, it's just an introduction.
Yeah.
Nevix hasn't played since what, the first season?
Yeah, first season, and then he sat a bunch. He played in the meme maps last year, but I thought he looked really good. I saw some people that were down on him, but what I saw was Nevix getting to play Diva and being everywhere.
Right.
He was all over the place. Not completely omnipresent, but like 80% there. Nevix is really good.
Yeah.
And it bodes well for the Toronto Defiant because as far as we know, Nevix isn't a shitty player. So we can scratch those possibilities off.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we're just varying levels of whether or not he's just good or top 10 or Hall of Famer. We're in varying levels of that, but we can X out the fact Nevix is a bad player. We can stop that talk immediately.
And it shows how much of a veteran player he is because he is an amazing diva. And I remember, and I haven't heard this since the first season, where I think it was with London. It might have been with London. It might have been with another team that played. But the casters actually had to call out, and there goes Matrix. Somebody.
He was eating hell.
No, it was just it was the fact that somebody had not been concerned of their time with their Matrix. They didn't do use Matrix half, move back behind the shield. They just used their whole Matrix and set it into cooldown. And Nevix seemed to never have lost Matrix.
Yeah.
It was just always there, and it's just perfect.
You know what's terrifying is Nevix popped off on Diva, right? But we still haven't seen him play Sigma yet. So what is he capable of?
Yeah, is he the greatest Sigma?
If he is what they say he is.
Give us the toes.
He has no limits.
He has no limits. He is infinite.
And so another dude that I'll mention two dudes. First, LH Cloudy. First of all, can we just calm the fuck down with him? He had a good game. Cool. He had a big shatter. Cool. They still lost. Like,
cool.
Fucking calm down, please. Like, they lost, and he was hit or miss. He had good maps, he had bad maps. He's an Overwatch player.
Yeah.
He's not garbage. Even Ben Best looked good this week. And he was trash all last season. But guess what? Fucking plays a video game a lot. Although, I will say, LH Cloudy is a grinder in ranked. Another thing Dogman said in the stream is that LH Cloudy has, like, 1,000 hours last season on ranked. So, homie works really hard. And you can tell he's worked really hard to grind. But we need to talk about the actual main tank of that game. Fissure.
Yes.
The god. So, alright, well, not necessarily the god yet, but he's, like, getting there. His Winston...
He will be. He's
ascending. His Winston's insane. His Ryan is good. It's bumpery, but the Titans like a bumpery type tank. Where he's just aggressive, let him do his thing. The thing with Fissure I really enjoyed is he creates a lot of chaos. And I think the Vancouver Titans will not be this dominant force this season. They already had a map 5 game this week. They're going to get pushed by good teams to great teams. The thing with the Vancouver Titans, though, is they just seem to thrive in chaos now.
Right.
When shit breaks down, they just figure it out. Because they have stupid talent. They have Haxel. They have Fissure, who thrives in tense situations. Twilight is as cool as a cucumber.
Right.
And Janu is the perfect off tank. But with Fissure, he's better than Bumper in every way imaginable. Mm-hmm. Yet, he's still able to be aggro the way Bumper was.
Right.
This was basically just getting Bumper 2.0. And I think there is a big issue in terms of, like, the team working together real well. There's still some, like, weird miscommunications. Team gets split. Sometimes they don't see flanks. They get fucking meme shattered. Like, these bad things happen, but that comes with time. What I really like is the team does seem to be all in on let Haxel play Genji.
Right.
When he plays Genji. And let Fissure just go, and we'll support him the same way we did Bumper.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a situation where Fissure will thrive. Another cool story, which is why I think Fissure won't leave. This is some, like, LeBron, Dwayne Wade type shit going on right now. But Jaehong was basically ready to sign with the Spark. Fissure, yeah, he was going to sign with the Spark.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure we talked about this.
I think we did.
Yeah, so he was basically going to sign with the Spark. And I think Fissure was going to sign with, like, Shanghai. But Shanghai didn't want to wait until after BlizzCon to sign him. And so Fissure was like, fuck you. And Jaehong called up his boy Fissure and was like, hey, man, you know, the Titans just offered me a contract. Like, you know, I'll go there if you go there. Right. We can just team up together, you know, on some king shit. And Fissure was like, yo, I'll give him a call. Called up the Titans, was like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to come back, but, I mean, shit, you could wait until after BlizzCon. We can work things out. Vancouver Titans, not being stupid, were like, yeah, we'll wait a couple weeks. Like, who cares? And they signed the two boys who basically conspired to team up with each other when they were both going to go to completely different teams. And I think that bodes well, because it's clear Fissure is wanted.
Yes.
He's wanted there by everybody involved. And I think that's, you know, in an emotional way, that's what he just always wanted.
That's what he deserves.
Also, it's just nice to see him, like,
get to play
dunk on his former teams.
Yeah.
It is very nice to see him.
It's like the two big middle fingers just right at him.
I do have a lot of hope for his future. Some of these teams, though, are more of a nope for their future. Right. So let's talk about it. I mean, so, you know, it's not all bad. It is only the first week.
That's true.
The LA Valiant. So I talked about KSP ripping the Dallas Fuel in half.
British prophet.
But I didn't talk about the LA Valiant doing that. Why? They are getting hard carried. I don't know how long that can last in a world where so many people are so good at this game.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Like, teams are going to eventually pick up on this, like...
Oh, get KSP.
I do totally see what you me with the Valiant. Eventually, teams are just going to sit there and think, yeah, all they do is just make strategies to play around KSP.
Including...
Let's just stop that. And it's going to eventually work. Particularly because there are better players to dive KSP than fucking Decay and Note.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to run into a Fury eventually. And Fury's going to be on that ass.
That's
so
true.
The Valiant are going to be a team that scraps against the really good teams, but can't get past the hump. Right. But I think they're in a way better position than some of like the shitty teams.
Sure.
Do you disagree?
No. But no, the casters do agree with you. They just kept saying over and over again that, hey, if anybody just would go for KSP, then this problem wouldn't be solved. But everyone was just like never going for him. Like, there was so many times where he was just like, just hit him. All you have to do is kill him. And you're not doing that.
Yeah, sometimes things are just simple. Kill him, shoot the ball, don't fuck up. Like, little things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody was able to do that against the Valiant. But the Valiant are genuinely good. McGravy...
They are generally good.
I think McGravy's for real. He's going to have a breakout season. Lastro's really good. I just think it's a team full of players that aren't excellent. But I think it was our Lost app. No, it was one of the season previews. I was talking about one of these teams not having a playmaker, and I think the Valiant have their playmaker.
Yes.
KSP. I was talking about the Gladiators, I think.
It probably...
No, I was talking about Houston.
Yes.
Houston doesn't have playmakers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
In the DPS position. And we look at the Valiant, and they have a playmaker in the DPS position. So KSP is going to have a crazy game, and he's going to lead. It's going to be like Krieve last year, where Krieve would have super high highs and shit on everybody. KSP's going to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
The Paris Eternal, though. How are we feeling about the Paris Eternal? Because I feel like they have been the most questionable team in the Overwatch League for a very long time.
I don't like to say it, but again, maybe it's just because what I saw today wasn't... And
well, they beat London.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't spectacular, and I'm starting to get the Toronto Defiant vibes.
From last year, where they have like a good early season, and then
I
think they're gonna be Paris from last year, just a fine team, 13ish wins, 14ish wins. Sparkle comes in, gives them a nice boost of energy. However, there is one thing that we do need to consider: the fact that they're playing with two main tanks right now, so they don't have a lot of flexibility when it comes to this tank stuff. Bahanbin will be in for like their next games, I think. He comes in at the end of the month. He turns 18. So once he's in, they have more flexibility in the tank line. Clearly, XC is good. And I think they're going to maintain a decent pace of like win, lose, win, lose kind of record. And I kind of think they're going to be able to stay afloat until Sparkle comes back. They look like a team that isn't completely helpless. The biggest thing that needs to be confirmed in the following weeks is Ben Best like an actually good player right now, or did he just have like a good first week? Because nobody's really trying to fuck with him like that,
right?
Because Ben Best was really bad last season.
Really bad.
Maybe he's better, but we'll have to see. But if Ben Best's improvements are for real, and he becomes like a solid tank. Then I do believe that they'll be able to kind of stay afloat, have hope, until Sparkle comes back and fucking ransacks the league.
For sure.
But hero bans are going to fucking destroy this team.
Yeah.
Once hero pools come in, Paris is screwed.
That's true.
I don't believe that they're going to survive hero pools.
I kind of feel the same way about London, if I'm honest.
Low-key. Yeah.
Like, low-key, London hasn't been the greatest team as of recently.
London's gonna be fun to watch.
They're fun to watch,
but they're not gonna win.
No.
Yeah, they're not in like the wow, you're gonna win this game. They're in the oh cool, London's playing. I'll check it out.
They're like the weird antithesis of New York, where they're like people. I feel like people are hyped about London, but they're like the losingest team, whereas like people are just like, oh yeah, New York, but New York is the winningest team in the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
London is just like a sleeper agent. Like, they're there, they're doing just okay, and then suddenly it's like, how the fuck did you guys make it into the playoffs?
Yeah, they really are a strange team. Like
London is going to ruin a team's playoff chances.
Yeah.
I'm so serious about this.
It happens every year.
It's going to be the end of the season, and London is going to just be like this okay team that plays good teams tough, and it's going to come down to like map score or, you know, fucking the Toronto Defiant need one more win to get into playoffs, and London's going to screw that up for them.
Right.
I think that's London's role this season. They are going to screw up teams' playoff positioning and playoff chances.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not a team to be taken lightly. You need to take them seriously in order to beat them, because they're going to play every game like it's their last.
Yeah. The worst thing about London, though, is like they will take that playoff moment from you and then immediately lose.
Yeah, and then they get 3-0 the next game.
Yeah, it's fucking...
And you feel like an idiot for losing to them.
How did we lose to London?
Yeah. How did J-Mac get a 5 shatter on us?
What the fuck is happening here?
But London is cool. I think London was fun to watch this weekend. They're a team that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to watch their games. Unlike Boston, which... Am I really going to watch Boston Uprising games?
Yeah, not really. I know you definitely want to talk about the next team, though. You have some thoughts about the Dallas Fuel.
Oh, what? You can't, Dallas always has 2 L's in its name? Because their Call of Duty team is shit, too?
God damn.
Yeah. Dallas always takes 2 L's.
Is that it? That's the entire...
Oh, I guess if we need to elaborate...
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The floor is yours, Xavier.
Cool, Decay was fine. Yeah. Shout out to Decay. Decay is really good at Overwatch. Right now. When Hero Pools come out, we'll see. Like, what the fuck are we expecting from Dallas right now? Are we really going to do this again where we sit here and say, you know, Dallas, like, might actually do something. You know, they're playing really well. They have a good roster, blah, blah. Are we really going to do this again?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, we went into this week expecting Dallas to get 3-0 twice and walk out of their home city sad as fuck.
Yeah, they're going to win games. I'm not saying they're Boston. But they're, you know, not far off. Yeah. I think Dallas is just bad. And... they're going to win games off the back of individual talent. They're not winning games because they're just a better team. They're going to win games because Decay gets like 40 final blows in a game for some reason. You know, that's their win condition. Decay pops off, Doha pops off. That's about it. I don't know. There's just nothing inspiring about them. And, you know, Dogman went in on them last night and talked shit about their coaches and said, you know, the Dallas coaches don't do anything for them, which is a little harsh on Dogman's part, but I do think the Dallas organization is in the hot seat because this is the 3rd year in a row where Dallas has some kind of expectations, and even after the first week, there's hope for them. I'm not saying they're a hopeless team because they have pop-off level players, but at the end of the day, what, every team has pop-off players?
That's
except
true.
for, like, Boston. But even Boston does. Color Hex is going to pop off one day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Munchkin is going to pop off one day. So, Dallas, they have 5 fucking homestands. So we should be thinking about them as a team that is going to be in playoff contention towards the end of the year. And I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't look at Dallas and say, you're better than the Chinese teams. You're better than Seoul. You're better than the Valiant full stop. They're not better than the Gladiators. Straight up. The Shock, like, clearly.
Exactly.
So, didn't bring that up.
Yeah, like, so who are they really competing against? They're not competing against these playoff level teams. They're competing against the Londons, the Parises, and the Bostons of the world. That's 5 homestands worthy? That's something to get me hype for that week 13 or so game when Dallas is 4 or 5 games below 500 and they're not making the playoffs? Am I supposed to get hyped for that? Really? It's stupid to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wouldn't be surprised if we're mid-season and Dallas is panic firing a coach.
Right.
True.
They're making a panic trade and trying to refresh this roster because, shit, Decay can only do so much. Goha can only do so much. Hero pools might hit this team hard because I'm not sure if Dogman is correct. I don't have inside sources into league and VOD reviews and all that fucking shit like Yiska has. But what I do know is during hero pools, if your coaching staff is shitty, you're going to go in those games woefully underprepared.
Oh, yeah.
Because you only got a week to figure out what the meta is, to figure out what the most optimal comp is. And yet again, you're in a division with the Shock. You're in a division
baddest
with the
motherfuckers.
Yeah, you're in a division with a lot of individual talent. The Valiant got good coaching. So what does Dallas do?
That's true.
Dallas gets shat on by every team playing next week. We can just say that too.
Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty far. Speaking of next week, we were talking about things we're not looking forward to, or at least Xavier was. Let's talk about something we are looking forward to. Next week. So, what game are you looking forward to next week? What's your fucking hype game?
Philly, Washington, probably. For the simple fact that it's Corey Carpe.
Okay.
But also, I've been hearing all this shit that, like, Washington is, like, really bad right now. Like, in practice, like, they're having a lot of issues.
Surprise, surprise.
So I'm kind of looking forward to just seeing Philly either roll Washington or just completely shit the bed and blow it. I don't think they are. I think they're going to win. I think it's going to be a 3-1 type of victory. But, yeah, there's that little thing in the back of my head that says it's still Corey.
Possible.
Yeah, like, it's still Corey. He can still pop off.
Right.
But it'll be interesting. I think the best game... So I'm looking forward to that simply for, like, schadenfreude purposes. But I think the best game out of all of those will end up being Florida versus Philly. Because Florida was really good towards the end of last season. And I don't think it was necessarily a fluke because Saya player was really good. He just didn't have a really good supporting cast. But now his whole team's upgraded.
Right.
They're kind of built around him.
Yeah, and Philly is low-key an all-star team right now. And so I think it's going to be a really good main event for that second day.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to be hype. It's going to be a super hype game because fucking you got Saya player going up against Carpe. That's going to lead to a bunch of oohs and ahs and crazy shots that they're going to be slow-moing down and all that stuff. So it's going to be a really good game. But I think all next weekend is cool.
Yeah.
We have Florida-Houston, Washington-Philly, Washington-Houston, and Florida-Philly. These are both teams with pop-off players.
Right? Yeah.
There ain't no... I don't think there's really any 3-0s in this. There's going to be a lot of 3-1s, 3-2s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be close.
It'll be a close game.
Might see some ties.
My most looked forward to match. Let's see. I think it's going to be Washington versus Houston. Because those are both kind of the teams that we always shit on.
Well, I mean, Florida is playing this weekend.
I get that. But if I were to say the ones that we're most likely to shit on still.
Yo, if Florida's bad again, imagine. They go through this rebrand. They sign all these new players. And then they go like 0-8 to start the season. We're just like, oh, we're back again.
Well, there they are. Florida.
Well, hell.
There they go. Florida Mayhem doing their thing. But no, I'm actually looking really forward to Washington Justice versus Houston Outlaws. I think that Houston has a different playstyle than how Washington will probably come into the game. And I think that will be where we really see out of these teams that kind of play in the Pacific Conference in the Southern Division. We'll see who's actually the closer of the two. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Corey play again. And seeing Dante again. Because they're some of the funner players to watch, and they always seem to come out smiling.
Yeah, I just want more Overwatch. man.
I do too.
After this week, I was just sitting there like, fuck, man, I want more.
Right. See, here's the thing about this weekend for me. If you would have shown me this lineup like 6 months ago, I would have said, damn, I guess I don't need to watch Overwatch. Like, the fuck's the point? But now I'm actually a little juiced because, you know, these teams have kind of upgraded a little bit. Like you're saying, Florida's actually good now. I think Houston may do something, even though we said they have no players that show up. I feel like all of these teams have a potential they did not have last season. That being said, the game I am most excited for is Washington versus Philly, just because I'm excited to see Philly play for the first time in a while. Because they're a team I forget exists constantly. Like, I'm pretty sure you could do a supercut of the amount of times I've like been on this stream, been like, "Fuck, there's another team." Oh yeah, the Fusion. And I want to see if they have earned my respect finally, and I want to see Washington play because Corey.
Yeah, that makes
Mostly,
sense.
I want to see if my draft went well.
Yeah, I think next week we're gonna see some like weird ass comps.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Which I'm
gonna be a
looking
weird
forward to.
weekend. I'm looking forward to the whole weekend. I don't really have a specific one I want to see.
I'm not looking forward to no Shanghai games.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm
man,
sad about that.
Shout
I'm very sad.
out to Fleta.
I was so looking forward to it.
I just want to see Fleta play.
Finding Fleta. Yet again. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have...
Season 2.
Yo, as we get...
Finding Fleta 100 years.
Listen, as we get, like, more viewers and stuff, we're going to reference this Finding Fleta thing, and nobody's going to know what the fuck we're talking about.
If you want to know, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ScrapyardMedia. And, of course, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Also on YouTube. Don't search Finding Fleta on YouTube, though. At ScrapyardMedia. Stay jazzy. Play a saxophone. Roll outro.
Watch Parasite.
Watch Parasite.
Best picture, baby!